Welcome back to another episode of the Doing Good podcast. Today marks the beginning of a two-part series focusing on Nashville Rescue Mission, a Christ-centered 501c3 nonprofit community which has been providing hope to Nashville's hungry, hurting, and homeless since 1954. Our guest today is Heidi Siefkas, an author, adventurer, and relatively new Nashville resident who's discovered that adventure is not just about travel. It's also about showing up to serve in your own community. Heidi is the creator of the Look Up mantra, which reminds us to be in the moment and find the upside in every situation. That philosophy of perspective and resilience has shaped not just her writing and speaking career, but also her approach to giving back. This conversation is an invitation to get to know Heidi, who she is beyond her books and adventures, what led her to volunteer, and how her volunteering at Nashville Rescue Mission is shaping her perspective. Can you tell us a little about yourself and what brought you to Nashville?
I moved to Nashville in 2023, and I moved to Nashville from Maui. Now, people question, why on earth would you move from Hawaii to Nashville? Well, at that time, I was a caregiver for my father, who was at the time 88. And with only one set of hands, I needed to go someplace that I would have some emotional support as well as some community, because we don't get through this thing called life by ourselves. And I have family friends that are retired. They've known my father for 50 years. They've known me all my life. And I decided this was going to be a great place to restart. And it's so far been a win-win-win.
Fantastic. Well, and speaking of your writing, you created the Look Up mantra, which is about being in the moment and finding the upside in every situation. At least that's how I understand it. So, how did that philosophy develop, and how does it guide your life?
So you described the two components of the Look Up mantra perfectly. It's a mindfulness tool, or just a life tool that allows us all, wherever we are, to switch the channel and pivot our mindset. I came up with it after having a near-death experience in my early 30s. So many people say life can change in an instant, and I am living proof of that. So I call it a when all balls drop moment. It was the spark for the Look Up mantra because I didn't want to forget that lesson.
Well, in this new life, what made you decide to also prioritize volunteering and community service?
I believe that good people do good things together, and that is why I volunteer to give back and be a lifeline for someone who may not have one.
So where have you volunteered while you've been in Nashville, or what types of volunteering have you done?
I have primarily in Nashville been volunteering at the Nashville Rescue Mission. I lived close to the men's shelter in downtown Nashville, but I've been doing my volunteering at the Women and Children's Center. Previously, I've worked at other soup kitchens when I lived in South Florida as well as in the Hawaiian Islands.
And was there a reason that soup kitchens have been a consistent place for you over your life?
I think we all bond over meals.
Sure.
And I didn't feel connected to some other non-for-profits. Everyone is there because everyone needs to eat. And it's a place for gathering. And I feel it's the best way that I can give back is to provide that sense of community that we all feel when we get around a table.
So perfect. That's great. Well, for listeners who may not already be familiar with Nashville Rescue Mission, would you tell us what you've learned about their work and the people they serve?
Of course, I mentioned I lived close to the shelter, but I didn't know that there were two centers, one for men and one for women and children. And I reached out to them because I was writing a book about amazing people that had overcome severe challenges. And I reached out to the Nashville Rescue Mission to see if they would be willing to help me find an individual from their organization that had just a spectacular comeback kid story. And that's how I became friends with Crystal Knight and her story, and going through the mission and not only being one of its graduates, but now one of its leaders.
So would you now talk more about the volunteer work you do with the Nashville Rescue Mission? What does that look like? What are you doing when you're there?
I typically will do lunch service there, and it's a very small amount of time. It's about 3 hours, and I try to do it at least once a month because I'm giving back. So I would encourage others to start giving back.
And to help, I'll say, to address growth in all of us, I understand you write about resilience and overcoming obstacles in work. So how has volunteering at Nashville Rescue Mission influenced your understanding of resilience, whether in yourself or others?
There was one particular lunch that I volunteered, and I think because there was college students there, one woman came through the line and she asked them what they were studying. And she wanted to make sure that they knew that she had been educated, college graduate, a classroom elementary teacher for over 20 years. And I think she wanted to showcase that she was in the line not because of not being educated or not having a career in her lifetime, but then she continued and said, I'm here because I got sick and I couldn't pay my bills because of a health scare. It could happen to any one of us. And once you can grasp that we're very, very, very close to losing everything, or an accident can happen at a drop of a hat, and that not all people get there because of poor choices. It's just being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Now, taking a turn a little bit, I think part of volunteering, frankly, and part of life is just showing up, right? So you encourage people to add adventure into their lives. Would you consider volunteering an adventure? And if so, how would you explain that?
So my definition of adventure is of an activity that is all-consuming. It doesn't have to be climbing Mount Everest. It doesn't have to be jumping out of a plane. It could be something that's physical, mental, emotional, or a combination of all three. It's something that puts you in the zone, kind of like a professional athlete gets into the zone, or the focus of a musician or any expert at their craft when they're in it. And volunteering can be doing that. When you actually put your phone away and that you're actually making eye contact with people, whether that's peeling potatoes, whether that is cleaning up after the meal is done, helping someone who is in a wheelchair or is trying to maneuver with a kid under one arm and a tray in the other. Doing that simple stuff to help people out and being off of your technology device and showing up 100%, I think that would classify as adventure.
So if someone listening is or is considering or is maybe new to volunteering and the adventure of it, where would you suggest they begin, especially if they're new to an area like you were?
I tell people find something that interests you, because then it's going to be even that much more beneficial.
I love it. I love it. And do you have any final parting thoughts for us, for the listeners today?
Life is going to serve you some curveballs. The commonality that we all face is that we are going to struggle now and again. And what gets us through that is resilience and community.
Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you so much.
Yes, there's the all-consuming experience of traveling to new places, but there's also the adventure of showing up in your own community and discovering what you're capable of. Thank you, Heidi, for your willingness to serve, for bringing your perspective and presence to Nashville Rescue Mission and our community, and for taking time to share your story with us today. In our next episode of the Doing Good podcast, we'll continue exploring Nashville Rescue Mission, hearing from its staff members, including Crystal, and learning more about its transformational work. Until then, remember, extraordinary impact often starts with everyday people who are willing to look up, show up, and serve. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Doing Good podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we invite you to subscribe or rate us on your favorite podcast platform. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, or YouTube at Doing Good TV. Doing Good is a 501c3 nonprofit. Please donate to support this podcast via the donate button on our website, doinggood.tv. And while you're there, nominate a volunteer you know for us to celebrate on a future episode. Together, let's celebrate those who are doing good.